Moravian dialect. So the varieties of Czech spoken in Moravia, a historical region in the southeast of the Czech Republic. There are more forms of the Czech language used in Moravia than in the rest of the Czech Republic. The main four groups of dialects of the Bohemian-Moravian group, the Central Moravian group, the Eastern Moravian group and the Lach group. While the forms are generally viewed as regional variants of Czech, some Moravians claim them to be one separate Moravian language. Southeastern Moravian dialects form a dialect continuum with the closely related Slovak language, and are thus sometimes viewed as dialects of Slovak rather than Czech. Until the 19th century, the language used in Slavic-speaking areas of Moravia was referred to as Moravian or as Czech. When regular censuses started in Austria-Hungary in 1880, the choice of main communication languages in the forms prescribed in Cisleithania did not include Czech language but included a single item, Bohemian-Moravian Slovak. Respondents who chose Bohemian-Moravian Slovak as the main communicating language were counted in the Austrian censuses as Czechs. On the occasion of 2011 census of the Czech Republic, several Moravian organizations led a campaign to promote the Moravian nationality and language. The Czech Statistical Office assured the Moravany party that filling in Moravian as language would not be treated as ticking off Czech, because forms were processed by a computer and superseding Czech for Moravian was technically virtually impossible. According to the results of the census, there was a total number of 108,469 native speakers of Moravian in 2011. Of them, 62,908 consider Moravian to be their only native language, and 45,561 are native speakers of both Moravian and Czech dialects. While the former regional dialects of Bohemia have merged into one interdialect, Common Czech, the territory of Moravia is still linguistically diversified. This may be due to absence of a single Moravian cultural and political center for most of their history, as well as the fact that both of its major cities, Brno and Olomouc, used to be predominantly inhabited by a German-speaking population. The most common classification distinguishes three major groups of Moravian dialects: Central Moravian, Eastern Moravian and Silesian. Some typical phonological differences between the Moravian dialects are shown below on the sentence, "Put the flour from the mill in the cart." Central Moravian dialects, or Hanakian dialects, are spoken in the central part of Moravia around Znojmo, Trebik, Brno, Olomouc, Barov, Zabrze and Šumperk, while the Central Moravian group traditionally contained many dialects native to specific microregions. Today's spoken language across Central Moravia is moving towards a unified, common Hanakian dialect. Features of this group include a prevalence of the vowels e and e acute in place of un, y, I, y, and ej, o and o in place of u and now, respectively. By extension, the third-person plural ending of verbs which would be I in Standard Czech, and ej or au in Common Czech is ijo, or sometimes just o in Central Moravian and gt, prosijo, raji, raju and gt, rajijo, raho. The instrumental ending I is also replaced by O. The ending A instead of E for feminine nouns and possessive adjectives is retained, as in Slovak. The verb to be has the first-person singular present tense form su rather than jsem. In contrast to Common Czech, the L on past tense verbs is always retained. The dialects spoken in and around Brno have seen a lot of lexical influence from Hantek slang, a jargon incorporating many German and Yiddish loanwords into the local Central Moravian dialect. Although by the 21st century the slang had greatly declined in use, some vocabulary from Handtech is still used commonly in everyday speech. For example, Selina instead of Tramwagen for tram, from German Elektrischlinie. The Hanekian dialect has a literary presence. Writers who have written in Hanekian dialect include Alois and Willem Mrsdik, Andrei Prichrel and Jakub Bobrovsky. Written Hanekian dialect often distinguishes between wide or open ENO and closed ENO, to reflect the dialects which pronounce these two sounds differently. SMRTK motrika beljedno jeden klovik tozchodobnain feet, narodil shamo klapchek ale nidonek telmo jits rkmotra ze beltozchodobne. Otecc povida, milabos, taxachodobne, zmne nido nichchi poslo ze vte acute vece, vesno c klapka pudo, akethopokam teho naptums rkmotra, anepatkam lazadniho, kostelnik mne prisnad poslos. Quote, Silopotkal SMRT, Ale Nevadel, Kotajazar Osobo, Bela Peknazenska, Jako Inazenska, PTAL Jozarke Motreko. Ona she nevum lavala ahne deho previtala ke mochakam, vizala klapkanaro kanesla hoda kostala, kaznik kapoktal jak she patri. Czech translation, Byl jedno nazvete jeden velmi chadi klovik, narodil shame u klapchek ale nikdo mu nektel jits rkmotra, protas Byl velmi chadi. Otecc povida, milibos, jsem tag chadi, ze mvte acute veci nikdo nichchi poslauki, vesmu si klapche pujdu, a kohopokam toho si najmu jako kmotra, a nepatkam li nikoa, snadmi prisposluzi kostelnik. Quote, Selapotkal SMRT, Ale Nevadel, Kozhatazar Osobu, Bilata Peknazina, Jako Ginazina, Pozadal G, Abia Selezarke Motru. Ona she nevim luvala ahne deho Oslo villa ke motresku, vizala klapchain arus panesleho de Kostrala, Kaznik kapoktili, Jak she patri. Eastern Moravian dialects are transitional dialects between Czech and Slovak. They are spoken in the strip of land extending from Breklav to Hodon and Kijov, Uske Radegast, Zedlin and Vysetin. The Eastern group contains two dialects of specific interest, the Moravian Wallachian dialect and the Moravian Slovak dialect. Features of Eastern Moravian dialects include the distinction between hard L and soft L is usually retained. By extension, the final L in past tense verbs is often rendered U. AJ sometimes retained instead of EJ. In contrast to common Czech, Y always prevails over EJ. Infinitives end in T rather than T, as in Slovak. The Moravian Slovak dialect shares several other features with Slovak, including the use of the long L and R. Wallachian dialects preserve the present transgressive, which is usually considered archaic in Standard Czech aside from in a few arbitrary phrases. Lachian dialects spoken in northeastern Moravia and the adjacent regions of Silesia around Opava, Ostrava, Radegast and Frenstadt pod Radhustum, are transitional dialects sharing more features of Polish. Defining phonological features include loss of distinction between long and short vowels, a feature colloquially known as kratky zobik in Czech. Stress shifted to the penultimate syllable of the word, as in Polish, rather than the first syllable. Alveolar consonants D, T and N often shifted to the palatal counterparts, and a distinction between hard SZC and soft SZC, as in Polish. Silesian dialects also contain many German loanwords unfamiliar to other Czech dialects. The Lachian dialects are closely related to the Cieszyn Silesian dialect, spoken in the area around Karwina, Český and Třinec, as well as on the Polish side of the border. Bohemian-Moravian dialects, Bohemian-Moravian dialects, or Southeastern Bohemian dialects, spoken in the Bohemian-Moravian highlands in western Moravia around Dasis, Jilava and Zdar nad Sazavou, are a transitional group between dialects of Bohemia and Moravia, sharing some features in common with Common Czech and others more in common with Central Moravian. Linguistic features. Phonology. Moravian dialects preserve numerous archaic phonological features that are no longer used in contemporary Czech, but can still be found in many other Slavic languages. The following tables list selected cognates pointing out the archaisms and showing their equivalents in the other languages. Absence of the Czech A and GT, E vowel shift. Absence of the Czech U and GT, I vowel shift, retaining the SC group, retaining palatal consonants. Grammar. While Moravian grammar tends to be similar to Czech grammar, there are some defining features. For instance, Moravian dialects apply a uniform pattern to the third-person plural ending of Class 4 verbs and Class 3a verbs, which in Standard Czech traditionally varied in an unintuitive fashion. Moravian dialects also occasionally use prepositions in a different fashion to Standard and Common Czech, usually mirroring usage in Slovak Polish. Standardization. Since the end of the 20th century, the private association Moravian Language Institute, founded by waiter and amateur linguist Jan Kozo-Horsky, has made attempts to standardize a literary Moravian language. The movement has been criticized by linguistics professors at Masaryk University in Brno as controversial and with strong political undertones.